Why, hello there! Today I'm back to talk about some travel tips for another one of my favorite places to visit in Japan, and today we're talking about Yoshino. So I'm going to format this video the usual way, and throughout the video I will be putting up links up here somewhere to my videos that I took while I was in Yoshino. For this one I'm also going to be linking my photography from Yoshino in the description down below because, I mean, one of the main reasons that you go there is to take amazing photos, and so if you want a better idea of what things might look like, please check that link out. Okay, let's get started. So let's start off with what Yoshino is and why it's on my favorite places list. Yoshino is a mountain in Nara Prefecture, and it's pretty remote and pretty quiet most of the year, except in spring it becomes wild. Yoshino Mountain is home to over 30,000 cherry blossom trees, and people from all over the world and all around Japan come every spring to see them blossom. It's a really incredible sight, and I think the reason it's on my personal favorites list is pretty self-explanatory. It becomes a cherry blossom paradise. You can't beat it for cherry blossom viewing. I also personally really love photography and videography, in case you hadn't noticed, and so for me the chance to take pictures and translate this real life beauty into photos and videos was too good to pass up. So that's another reason why I really loved it. Basically, it's just something that you can't really pass up, especially if you live in Kansai like me. People will recommend it to you until they're blue in the face, so you kind of have to go at least once, and I highly recommend that you do. It is well worth it. Apart from that, another great thing about Yoshino is that the cherry blossom trees will bloom at different times because there are 5 layers of cherry blossoms up the mountain, and so of course the ones that are higher up are colder and they'll bloom later, and the ones lower down are in a warmer climate and they will bloom earlier. This is fantastic because cherry blossom season in Japan is notoriously short, so if you want to catch cherry blossoms a little earlier or a little later, or for whatever reason you couldn't catch them in the main time, then Yoshino is a great place to go. So that's what it is and why I really liked it. Next, let's talk about how to get there. As I mentioned before, Yoshino is quite remote, and so getting there can be a little complicated. I'm going to go through the basic outline of it, but please, please, please do check this very carefully and make sure you know exactly how you're getting there. So basically you're going to want to get onto the Kintetsu line for Yoshinoguchi, and once you're at Yoshinoguchi you can get the line to Yoshino directly. It's quite a long ride, but it is another very beautiful ride, and also in spring the Yoshinoguchi to Yoshino line has a couple of special sakura themed trains, which is quite cool. Once you're at Yoshino itself, you can choose how you want to start your journey up the mountain. The start of the mountain is quite steep, and so a lot of people choose to take the ropeway up instead of walking. It's your choice, but I recommend the ropeway not only to conserve energy, but actually mainly because the ropeway has amazing views itself. So if you want some extra sakura views, not that you're going to be lacking, do take the ropeway up the first part of the mountain. If not, you can walk, and that's absolutely fine. It's definitely possible to walk, it's just that a lot of people choose to save that first bit of energy and use the rest of their energy to get up the actual rest of the mountain. Once you get to the top of the ropeway, you can again choose how you want to proceed. You'll be at the start of the main walking path of the mountain, and this path is pretty easy. Especially if you have a long time, like a full day, I really do recommend walking the rest of the mountain because there are a lot of places that you will miss if you go by bus. However, there are buses that go to each part of the mountain, so each of the 5 layers of cherry blossom trees, there's a bus that goes up the entire mountain and can take you the whole way. I recommend walking, but of course it's completely up to you. The buses are fine as well, and they make it much more accessible, so that's fantastic. So that's how you get to and around Yoshino. Getting there is a little complicated, as I say, so please remember to check your way thoroughly and make sure that you have it all in your head. One more thing really quickly about transportation, getting back. So I found that when I climbed all the way up to Kamisenbon, the top layer of the cherry blossom trees, my feet were really sore and I just kind of wanted to get the bus back down, so that's what I did. But one thing you need to be aware of if you want to do this is that the buses do end very early. I went on a weekday because weekends are a nightmare in terms of busyness, but the buses ended before 6 p.m. when I went. The way that you can handle this is when you see a bus stop, just make sure you check that timetable and check the last bus, because sometimes they will end earlier than you might expect, so something to keep in mind. Next, let's talk about some things that you might like to do while you're in Yoshino and some of the things that I really loved. For this particular place, I feel like the recommendations are pretty self-explanatory because everyone's pretty much just going there to see the beautiful sakura. Uh, yeah, that's that's what I recommend first and foremost, of course. Apart from that, there are a few other things that I will mention. Number one is that there is a lantern or light up festival during spring, and you can check the dates for this online. So if you want to see that, make sure that you stay until after dark so that you get to see that. I believe it has priests walking lanterns up the mountain, so if you're interested in that, that's something that you could do. Another thing is sakura themed foods and drinks. So almost every restaurant, as you can imagine, in Yoshino will have some sort of sakura themed food or drink item, and that can be kind of fun and interesting to try if you want to. They range from very like high-end kind of fancier traditional Japanese restaurants to like soft cream stands where you can get sakura soft cream. So pretty much whatever budget or whatever type of food suits you, you'll be able to find. There's also tons of festival foods there, like little street food stalls and things like that that you can try. So yeah, make sure that you don't eat anything before you go, I would say, and plan to have like either breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner in Yoshino. Apart from that, I do recommend one other thing, which is try to take some of the offshoot paths if you're walking up the mountain. So there's the main path that goes up the mountain, and you can absolutely stick on that the whole way up. But if you really want to see some amazing things or go to places that other people might not be crowding so much, take some of the smaller paths and just like follow them. Make sure you don't get lost, but it's pretty hard to get lost, to be honest. But try taking them and just seeing where they lead you. Some of them will lead to amazing views or little shrines or temples. Anything is possible, really. I followed a couple of them and it was really worth my time. I really loved kind of taking that little adventurous approach to it. So that's my recommendations for Yoshino. Basically, sakura, sakura, and more sakura. But I mean, what do you expect? It's Yoshino. And lastly, let's just talk about some things you might like to know before going to Yoshino. So I touched on this a little bit before, but make sure that you're always checking the last times for each form of transport. All of the transport out of Yoshino does end quite early, so if you're not planning on staying there for the night, then you really need to make sure that you know your timetables. So buses end early, the ropeway ends early, and the trains end early as well, especially on weekdays, and we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, just make sure that you're either you have the timetables in your head or you took a picture of them at the station or whatever it is, whatever way you do it, make sure that you're well aware of when you need to be at each station. My next piece of advice, as mentioned in the last piece of advice, is to go to Yoshino on a weekday. I mentioned at the start of this video that Yoshino gets a little wild around springtime in terms of tourist activity, and weekends are doubly so. Everyone is trying to go to Yoshino on weekends and in Golden Week. So if you can try to get there, especially if this is just a vacation to Japan for you, try to get there on a weekday, not Friday either. I would recommend like midweek, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is ideal. I only go to Yoshino on weekdays, and I would recommend everyone else do the same. If you're not super bothered by crowds, then by all means go on a weekend. For me personally, crowds aren't my thing, and so weekdays are best for me. And if you're like me, then weekdays are good for you too. Last piece of advice. Around Yoshino Mountain there are quite a few hiking trails, and if you are looking into doing any of those, I can't really tell you too much about them because I haven't done them. What I do know is that Yoshino is pretty far out in the Inaka in Nara, and so be wary when you're on these trails of wild pigs and other potentially dangerous animals, also monkeys. Just be aware that they do exist. There's actually a gate in part of Yoshino that you have to keep closed at all times so that wild boars don't get in. So if you're planning on going a little off the beaten track, just make sure that you're aware of what kinds of animals exist around this area because it is pretty far out in the wild, and make sure you know exactly how to handle those. Okay, that's about it for my Yoshino travel tips. I hope you have an amazing time if you go there and get some incredible photos. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. And apart from that, I will talk to you later. Bye!